Hi there. I'm Leilani Sayas, a certified life coach with natural capacities. I specialize in brain wellness, so I help people work with their brains instead of against them, so they're clear, strong, and ready to master how they live. With 20 plus years of experience as a university researcher who studied cognitive functioning, I've put together this quick video to help you better understand your brain, especially when it comes to forgetting what you're doing. So, does this happen to you? You walk into a room and can't remember what you were planning to do and wonder, why did I come in here again? Although this blank mind moment is frustrating and potentially embarrassing, know that it's a common memory slip. In a bit, I'm going to explain what's happening and share some tips to deal with it better. But first, I'll describe what working memory is so that this puzzle makes more sense. You've probably heard of short-term and long-term memory, but did you know we also have working memory? Essentially, our working memory allows us to hold things in mind while also doing something else. It directs and filters the spotlight of our attention so that we can focus on complicated tasks. As an executive function, it's required for pretty much everything we do that's not automatic. But even for habits, it can become necessary when conditions demand extra effort and attention. Like when driving, if there's a sudden downpour of rain that makes it hard to see, we need our working memory to help us fully focus on operating and navigating the car. So, working memory is like a funnel that limits our thinking capacity, enabling us to only mentally work on a certain amount at a time, some of us more than others. When we attempt to make our brains process more than our own personal limit, we forget because it falls out of our overloaded funnel. This can make us feel overwhelmed, confused, flustered, or even stressed because part of what we want to remember seems out of reach or out of mind. Now you may be wondering, what's the capacity limit? Well, we don't know. And part of the reason is because information can vary in size and intensity. For example, what counts as a thing to process? A nervous feeling? An idea? Or the scratchiness of your shirt? So it can get a little tricky. But I like to explain the concept this way, even though there are other ways, because it's simple to understand. We each have a particular working memory capacity, and when we go over the limit, we function less well. So getting back to the problem of why we forget what we're doing. Imagine you have a working memory capacity of 3, so you can successfully hold 3 things in your mind at a time to guide your focus. You're in the kitchen, listening to music. Hungry, you prepare to make a sandwich for lunch. But when you open the bread bag, you discover that the entire loaf is moldy. Wondering when you bought the bread, you quickly decide to check the date on the grocery store receipt, which is in your wallet in the living room. And as you're walking down the hall, you're fuming with frustration. Now you can't have the sandwich. You might even replay the shopping trip in your mind, trying to make sense of how this happened. Whether you realized it or not, your brain was busy processing at least 3 things at once: music in the background, a feeling of irritation, and a memory about shopping. Adding the goal to grab the receipt pushed your brain beyond its working memory limit, especially if other information was already on your mind, like what needs to get done after lunch or what happened earlier that morning. So the idea to grab the receipt fell out of your overloaded working memory funnel, even though your feet remembered the plan and still took you to the living room. Now that you understand the problem, here are some tips to avoid forgetting what you're doing in the future. Because working memory is an executive function, there's no quick fix for this kind of forgetting. But there are some things you can do to better hold things in mind. One is to recognize your own cognitive capacity limit. There's only so much each of us can process in our working memory funnel. When we take in more than our brains can manage, something is likely to be forgotten. In my example, the goal to grab the receipt was forgotten because it was the easiest thing for the brain to let slip, which I'll explain in a moment. But to resist this tendency, before taking goal-directed action, we can reinforce it. We can say it out loud so that we hear it. We can make a note so that we write and read it. Or even imagine it so that we activate long-term memory support. If you remember my other videos, the brain preferences activation that's vibrant. So intentionally reinforcing what you're about to do before you do it will raise that goal's intensity, making it a high priority to hold on to. And finally, eliminate distractions. Anything coming through your senses from the environment is considered high priority by the brain because it serves an important purpose to keep you alive. So by default, sensory information is processing priority number 1. Emotional reactions are processing priority number 2 because they initiate action. Cognitive thoughts, although important, tend to be less immediate to our survival. But by limiting external and even internal distractions, we can free up cognitive space in our processing funnel, no matter what our capacity is. And remember, co-occurring conditions like hearing or vision loss, illness, grief, anxiety, or injury can further restrict our capacity. So be choosy about what you allow into your working memory funnel, and be kind to yourself about environmental or processing constraints beyond your control. Okay, that's it. I hope you found this information useful. Subscribe to this Natural Capacities channel for future brain wellness videos. Thank you.